Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with Don Baggett from the Secret Cabal. And today, we're just going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And before we get started, though, since this is Boards and Brews, Don, what are you drinking today? I have a lovely Fort Point KSA. It's a San Francisco brewery. You know, you should get Tony to break international shipping laws and send you some because it is delicious. Or not
Yeah, so
international shipping laws. That's crazy. State shipping laws.
statewide, yeah,
Yeah.
state lines. So I today have what is my favorite beer right now and has been for a good long time, and that is a loose cannon
Ooh.
IPA. This is a 7.25% alcohol by volume. This is brewed locally at the Heavy Seas Brewery, and I sort of fell in love with this one whenever we took a tour of that brewery. It's been around since 1995, and it's sort of just off of the Baltimore Harbor. I live at the Baltimore D.C. Beltway. Um, and and they have these huge barrels full of hops, and you smell those hops. And they teach you how to properly drink a beer. In fact, right? So you definitely want to have a pint glass so you can smell, and that's part of the fun of it, right?
Well, you know, a lot of people actually watch the video, the podcast instead of listening. So, I mean, you can demonstrate how to
Oh, okay, I
drink
can do that.
beer.
I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, maybe you'll get a sponsorship.
Doubtful. I think I'm quite a bit of their income flow right now, though. So
You are their income.
they owe me somehow.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife was just saying she's actually in her office she works in construction, and they have happy hours every now and then. And one of the people wanted, let's do flights of wine. And she said, I'm by myself. I'm not opening 3 bottles of wine because I was off at rehearsal for something. And she keeps, because their construction company used to buy a lot of wine for events and stuff. And she keeps getting called from all these different wineries, you know, trying to pitch her stuff. So, oh no, we'll send you a free flight if you want to get this. And she gets like, what am I going to do with a case of wine? Well, we know what we'll do with a case of
Yeah,
wine.
exactly.
What are
We
we
could
going to
draw
do
a
with,
picture.
yeah, with 8 cases of wine in our house? Anyhow, we've already digressed. This is a record
Hey, I'll take it
digression.
off the rails real quick, so get used to it.
Yeah, yeah. But so the initial questions that people will always get asked when they come on. All right, it's rapid fire here. Who the crap are you? What is your outlet? What's your shtick? And how and why did you get started in the review game?
All right, so I'll give you the first of a lot of long answers because those of you that don't listen to the Secret Cabal Gaming podcast, you should know I talk a lot. So I think a lot of the time is co-opted by Jamie, who's the sort of the host of the podcast, and myself. So anyway,
Well, I
uh,
promise not to cut it out like I imagine he does.
uh,
So
so
everybody,
anyway,
buckle up.
who am I? So like my buddy Will here said, I'm Don Baggett. I live in the Baltimore, D.C. area. And I am one of the honorary founders on the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast. You can find it at thesecretcabal.com. And the podcast itself's been around for about 8 years, I think now, although I've been a host on it for about the last year or so. Um, so that's the channel. What's the stick? Well, the general stick of the overall Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast is I mean, the thing we always are known for is insubordinate nonsense, right? And I think the thing that Jamie and the rest of us sort of shoot for is we want to be the most punk rock of all podcasts in a sense. So, that's sort of our group shtick. Now, what
Now,
role do I
are we
fill in it?
talking
Yeah,
like old school punk rock? Or are we talking like new
we're talking
school, getting into K-pop punk rock?
we're talking about you better call the cops when you book the band because it's going to head south real quick. So this is old school stuff. Anyway, so my particular shtick on the podcast is the reason I'm there. We all kind of feel different roles in a sense, right? So for me, it's Jamie liked the fact that when we were gaming together at our local meetup, I would be sort of the critical voice of a game, right? Sort of diving into the mechanisms and things like that. And he sort of thought that was cool. He thought that would be a cool part of the podcast. So I remember about a year ago, Chris Miller, who's also on the podcast, had said, "Hey, do you want to be on the podcast?" And I thought Chris was just being nice. And he asked for, I bet it was, I don't know, 4 months, something like that. He was asking, and he was asking in like Jamie's presence, and Jamie wasn't saying anything. And I'm like, I hope he's not pissing Jamie off because it's like, Chris, you're a nice guy. What are you doing? Uh, and then finally, Jamie asked me one day, and Chris
Meanwhile,
had
Chris
asked me so
probably thought
much.
you were a jerk because you weren't jumping in like, oh yeah, please, can I? Can I? You know,
Well,
you were
yeah,
playing
that's
it
just it.
cool.
It's like, well, the thing was, I was a fan of the podcast before I joined the podcast, right? I mean, I remember vividly cutting my grass and listening to the podcast as I'm cutting the grass and just really enjoying the banter of these guys, 5 guys at the time, right? Going back and forth with all their, it sounded very authentic. And now having been a part of it, I can vouch it is authentic, right? And and at some point they said, yeah, we have our local meetup at Beer Mongers in York. And I thought, are they talking about York, Pennsylvania? It's only like an hour up the road. So, for a couple months, I was like, I'll find a time to go up there. Finally went up there, met those guys, saw them at a couple conventions, and then at some point they said, "Hey, you wanna share the room at Gen Con?" And I said, "Yeah." And we sort of went off and run from there. But I was a friend of theirs for years, 4 or 5 years before I ever joined the podcast. And finally, after Chris had asked so many times and made me rather uncomfortable, to be honest, uh, Jamie asked, and I said yes pretty quickly after that. And Jamie said he was surprised how quickly I said yes. Well, that's because I've been thinking about it for 4 months, right? And the reason Jamie was staying so quiet is he was gauging how I was reacting to Chris's question rather than being uncomfortable with what Chris was asking, right? So anyway, that's how I got on the podcast.
I tell you, so if everybody here is imagining like the a sitcom style, just pining away, trying to go to their game meetup, and you finally put on all your Secret Cabal gear, and you drove up, and you stood in line and waited to get in, and
Something like that.
you were standing outside, it's 5 in the morning waiting for beer mongers to open.
It's so funny. When I did show up to Beer Mongers, I was, I mean, it's not just, whenever you show up to something like that and you've been hearing about it for a while on a podcast or anything like that, you have a picture in your mind, right? We all sort of build pictures in our mind. And it was way different than the picture I had in my mind. It was like a convenience store that they had turned into a bar slash pub type area, right? And to be honest, it was a really cool place. I say was, unfortunately, because it recently shut down because of COVID. They didn't have, a lot of business for 6 months, and a small business like that, it's rough on them. So whenever all this lets up, we're going to have to find another place to be. It won't be Beer Mongers, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't call it the Beer Mongers Memorial Meetup.
Well, if you're clever, you'll find a place a little closer to you.
Hey,
I
if I
mean,
was clever, yeah.
you got to find the perfect spot to get all them driving.
Yeah, the problem is there might be some spots sort of in the middle, but the thing is, I don't mind driving. It gives me a reason to leave work a little early, and I can be like, dang it, I got to leave work a little early.
And that's spoken like a man with several kids.
That's right. I got 2 kids actually.
There you
So
go.
I've
Are
got
they
a 15-year-old
teenagers?
girl. Oh, they are, yeah. So they don't want to be around me, regardless of whether I want to be around them or not.
Um, so our first topic, for those of you who are just listening, I'm doing air quotes because this is very, we might talk about half of what we have on this list here. But our first one is, so since you started reviewing, and the reason I asked you on instead of anybody else from the Secret Cabal, um, was because you're the newest to the quote unquote review business, as it were. And I've been
Right.
doing it a little bit longer than you, not much longer than you. And so the first question is, how has playing games changed for you since you started? I'll let you take this one first.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question. I think by and large, the way someone plays games before they become a reviewer and the way they play games after they start reviewing is 99% the same. But there are definitely gears in your mind that start working when you review games that weren't necessarily engaging completely before you were reviewing, right? Before you'd sit down to play a game, you'd be like, well, I hope I enjoy this. And, how does this thing work? And then you try to win, right? And you want everybody to enjoy the game. Don't get me wrong. It's not all about winning or losing, but you want to win. You try to take what you think might be the best strategic path to win. And I think after you start reviewing, you start thinking more about the ingredient mechanisms in a game. It is very much less about whether you win or lose and more about, can you stress that system in a way, and how do those mechanisms adjust to the way you stress that system, right? Are there interesting strategic paths you can go down that are a little odd? So I find myself sometimes thinking, okay, my best path I think would be to do this, go down this strategic path, but I want to try something a little different for this game because I want to see if it's a viable path. It's not necessarily one I would be drawn to immediately, but I've tried the other one. I want to try this one, right? That way, when you sit down and you talk about the pros and cons of a game, you can talk about, are the paths all viable as far as you can tell, right? Uh, are there things that are a little underpowered, things you feel are overpowered, that kind of thing. So I think it's most the approach you have before you're a viewer and when you're a viewer, just about the same. But you have these other gears that are going whenever you you've become a reviewer of games, right? You're always sort of mindful that there's some output associated with that on the other end.
Yeah, I found there was aspects that I never ever thought about much. Like I barely thought about art
Hmm.
before. I was like, wow, that looks cool. But then, all right, but let's get to the game. But now, oh my gosh, I spend so much time thinking about the art. And the other thing that changed for me is I don't get to play as many games as I just want to play anymore. I mean, so I know you guys don't do Kickstarter previews. That's just about my bread and butter. I do
Right.
so many of those, and so I find I'm constantly trying these new games. Playing stuff two-handed so I can then teach my wife how to play so she won't kill me when I can't explain what's going on. Is we're good kind of going through. And a lot of times I just stop and say, man, I haven't played a game that I just want to play because I want to
Yeah.
play it in a long time. And so, but that's been the big change off of my end. And I mentioned playing games with my wife. That kind of leads me right at my second one that I kind of threw into our questions at the end. So for my wife, I will not play a game with her anymore. I've learned. Firefly the game taught me this, which I'm now trying to sell because she will never play it again. I won't play a game with her that she can be developing a long plan. She's a
Yeah.
planner. She loves if she can plan out something and then see that come to fruition, that makes her so happy. But if I can mess up her plan, like halfway through, she will lose her mind. So Firefly, that's just for you guys, if you don't know anybody, it's just a pick up deliver game. And we're going along, picking up, delivering, and then I moved the Reavers right into her and never played the game again.
I bet the
I
tenor of that marriage changed real quick at
oh
that
boy,
table.
let me tell you, it did for that moment. I was like, well, I've made a choice. Let's start Googling under the table lawyers, right?
That's
you
right. You
know,
got to be careful. She knows where you sleep, Will.
yeah, well, I got personal injury lawyers is what I was Googling, right?
That's right.
But for that's it. That and complicated games. She didn't have any time for something complicated. But mostly it's if I can mess up her plan, she's out. How about you? What do you avoid with your family?
Yeah, so it's very similar with my wife and I. So when I first got into the hobby, which is, I don't know, almost 20 years ago, right? I was discovering all these cool games to play. And the memory I have in my mind is like Puerto Rico, Kalis, and we'll come back and talk about these in a bit. Puerto Rico, Kalis,
Now,
also
isn't
Agricola.
Kalis one of the meanest games ever made?
I don't it there are mean aspects to it, no question. Now the whole but the game plays as the table sort of dictates the game is played, right? So it could be a little
Did your
nasty.
wife go for that excuse?
No, no. But this, I mean, she played those games with me, but it was only because, it was new and I was excited about it, which, and that, excitement's contagious a little bit, right? So she got a little excited about it, not nearly as much as I did, but that excitement fueled me to want to play more games and play almost constantly. And, it sort of caught on with me, didn't catch on with her so much. So we actually play less frequently now. That makes sense though, because I'm playing online on Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia, or in person, right? Whenever we were doing all that with other people and the reviewers and Cabal guys and stuff. And so there's less need for me to pull her into my problematic hobby. Just put it that way, right? But she still plays
That's
the
your
occasional game.
memoir right there. My
That's right.
problematic hobby,
That's
the
right.
Don story.
Yeah. So, but the cool thing is, uh, my long-term plan was to spawn and grow smaller gamers, and they're becoming teenage gamers. And these teenage gamers are now interested in some of these games, which is really cool. Years ago when they were younger, they're
Yeah,
13
yeah,
and
that's really
15
funny you
now.
said it. So many people are like, oh gosh, I just would love to see someone like my wife in miniature, or I'd love to see this. And you're like, nah, I wanted someone to play my games with.
That's right. You got to. This is a long-term plan that we're talking about here, man. It's good they're playing games because my son's not taking out the garbage like he's supposed to. I'm still stuck doing that. So come on, I got to get something out of this. So anyway, they're getting to the point though where they can play some of these meatier games. Not, I mean, not the uber complicated stuff,
You're not
but
playing feudum with them.
exactly. That's the one that comes to mind. It's like, nah, I'm not playing Feudum with them. I'm lucky to get hardcore gamers involved in Feudum, to be honest. But one of the things we might talk about later is my daughter is learning about, it's a topic of conversation now, the electoral college and how elections generally work in the states. And so, whipped out 1960, The Making of the President. And I'm like, because that's a very cool game that sort of shows you how, to manipulate media and the debates and things like that, and how they play and how the Electoral College works. So it allows me to say, oh, you're learning about that? Very cool. I got a game. Let's give it a shot.
And you can also go right on Kickstarter and back Campaign Trail right now,
I saw
which is
that. I'm thinking about that actually.
it's I just did a preview for they sent it to me like 3 days before they launched. I'm like, can you do this? I was like, yes, but it's fantastic. It is
Really?
it's completely apolitical, which
Yeah.
made me happy because I can't deal with it's too real,
Yeah.
but completely apolitical. It's one of the best area control games I've ever played.
Really?
Yeah, maybe not the best, but it is up there. I mean, if you ever need an excuse to back a game, your
Yeah.
daughter's learning about it.
That's right.
Yeah, but
She won't be
yeah,
learning about it in 2 years when the Kickstarter ships or whenever it is. But
yeah,
hey,
maybe your son will be.
that's right. Hey, that's a great point. I like the way you think, Will.
See,
We could be really dangerous for each other.
oh,
This is good.
it's horrible. My buddy, people on the who watch know him as Streamline Matt. His whole thing is he's like, I gotta streamline it more. That's always his complaint. Like he actually designed a game once and he straight up streamlined the fun out of it.
Oh man.
Like it's great. And then he's like, this isn't fun anymore. Open the box, close it, done, perfectly streamlined. But we started a deal where when we see one of each other back something, we immediately text him and be like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, and then we make the other one defend their choice to try to talk ourselves out of it. Because I don't know how much space you have, but you're looking at about all the space I got, just about.
I got a little more. I got a portion of the basement here that's devoted to my games, but I'm overflowing it. As you can imagine, I've been gaming for, like I said, almost 20 years, and you collect a lot of games over 20 years, right? Um, and in fact, I'm at the point now where I've got to get some kind of mechanism, like I think Tom Vassell has. If he keeps a new game, something's got to go. So I've got to get it to that equilibrium point and have the self discipline to maintain that equilibrium point.
It gets harder when you only have stuff left that you're like, I like this game. Like,
Yeah.
because you get those turds that you back or something every now and then. You're like, I don't like this. That's easy. But then you start getting into you got all the stuff that you have like the feels for.
And I
But
found that different games fall into different categories, right? There's also games that, you know, that I have that I don't think I will ever play again. And that's usually my criteria, right? If I look at a game and I'm like, even if it's a great game, if I'm never going to get it to the table, better to get this game to someone else that will get it to the table. So I'm infamous about giving games away to people that I think they and their family or they and their game group will enjoy. And but the problem is I have some games that I know are never going to hit the table again, but I just refuse to get rid of them because it just has a special place in my heart for one reason or another, right?
yeah, well, well, I can feel it through the screen. There's something you're thinking of that you're almost getting teary just thinking about this game.
So the game that comes to mind was actually the first game I really published as a gamer. I'm sorry, the first game I really bought as a gamer, and that's Betrayal at House on the Hill. So I remember the first time I went to a board game store, I was kind of drugged there by my friends from work, and they said, "Hey, we going to this game store? You want to go?" And I was like, "Okay." It's one of those small decisions that makes a huge difference in your life
Yeah,
in
think how much
hindsight, but
bigger
you have
your
no
house
idea.
would be.
This is true. How much money I would have at this point. So anyway, went and I was just looking around, and they bought a game or two, and it was my local store. At the time, they were called Games, Comics, and stuff, and it probably fit in an area just about the size of what you can see behind my chair here, right? It was very small, and now it's grown to a huge store in the Baltimore area. And I remember looking, I was like, okay, if they're getting games, I might as well pick up one of these games. I'm looking, I was like, this looks pretty cool. This Betrayal at House on the Hill, you flip it around, you look at the back, and you read it. Okay, I'll give it a shot. So I bought that. Little did I know it was the first step down this long path. Many would call it a death spiral, but down this long path into gamerism, right?
Well,
So I'm
I
never getting
mean,
rid of that game.
maybe you're like Sully. You're just going to land right on the river, and everyone's going to be fine. It's not necessarily a death spiral, but
I appreciate that. I hope you're right, Will.
yeah, I mean, and then The Rock could play you in the movie.
Perfect.
Now we got it. Yeah, but I can see that with the Betrayal. That was one of the earlier hobby games I played too. And if you're used to playing stuff, like Candyland and Monopoly, like just
Yeah.
mind blowing. That's a fun game. I think I like the Baldur's Gate one slightly more, and the Betrayal Legacy. That one's a lot of fun. I don't know if you've done that one yet.
Have you played that all the way through the campaign?
No COVID,
Oh, I've
I
played it all the way through the campaign. I thought it was an excellent campaign game.
yeah,
Excellent campaign
we
game.
got through probably 2/3, maybe
Hmm.
2/3, something like that. I remember the most satisfying thing I had one. I survived like 4 times, and I started. I was like 8 years old, and finally I was like, okay, I got to die of old age. 'Cause I'm 124 years old and
Right.
1862. Like
Yeah.
the math doesn't work out on that.
So
Uh,
that's the beauty of that game, though, is that you can sort of define who that character is in terms of your family going throughout time. That's kind of very cool, right? It doesn't add anything to the gameplay necessarily, but it adds to the narrative, right? Over the campaign.
Yeah, I'm guessing that you guys were all very serious about your family names and stuff. Whereas I walked in and I'm like, "That's your name?" I was like, "All right, I'm the Power family, and my name's Max." And then everybody from then on was a Maximilian Power, Maxine Power, but
Oh,
you
nice.
know, so we took it very seriously, as you can tell.
We definitely haven't taken every campaign game seriously. What comes to mind is I want to say we played Pandemic Season 1. We played that through as well, a few years ago. And I remember, I take that back. This was Risk Legacy, way back. So this was Risk Legacy. It was one of Rob Davio's first, if not the first Legacy game that he designed. And I remember somebody took over something, it was Australia, and he ended up calling it Southeast Asia. It was that kind of thing.
And insulted an entire continent.
Hey, that's where he attacked from, and that's what he took over. So that's what he called it.
Well, and I assume he won because you take Australia and then you win.
It was a moral victory. We'll call it that.
But speaking of conquering the world, Euro games is our real topic. And one of the other reasons I wanted to chat with you, because you seem like you're the biggest into the Euros of all the guys. Um, at least from listening is what it sounds like. Now, the first thing that we always see on Facebook and stuff, people are like, "What's a Euro game?" So, I mean, the real answer is there is no answer, right? It's kind of
Yeah.
amorphous. But in your mind, what's a Euro game?
Yeah, so there are a few characteristics that define Eurogame, but as you said, the huge caveat here is as soon as you draw a box and you say all Euro games live within this box, somebody says, well, "What about this one?" And you're like, "Yeah, that's kind of a Euro game too." And so your box gets a little piece off this and this game, and so it's hard to define, right? For me, at least, the elements of Eurogame of a game that sort of make it a Euro game for me is there's usually some kind of economy or item transfer type mechanism where you're turning certain goods into other types of goods or you're turning goods in for victory points. The big thing is the amount of randomness that is or is not allowed in that game. So if there's very little randomness that gets inserted into the game, that tends to be categorized sort of as a Euro game in my mind. This is not always true because I found that it's easy for us as a community to categorize things as Euro games when the randomness is coming out of a card deck. But when you're
Yep.
rolling dice, that's almost the whoa, you're rolling dice and
Yeah,
this is a random
see
event.
Gloomhaven, right? I mean,
Yeah.
people talk about Gloomhaven being a Euro. I'm like, man, those decks are every bit as random as I guess you can count. I guess you can count the
I don't know
cards.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 that's a good point. I was as you were talking, my own definition just kind of clicked over a
Yeah.
little bit into to me, it's a lack of chaos in
Hmm.
the game. Like a real Ameri style game and you're throwing dice and what's going to happen, I don't know. But a Euro game, there may be some randomness, but you know what that randomness is going to do.
Oh,
And
that's
there's
a
a,
good point. Yeah.
one of my favorites we're going to talk about a little later, like Euphoria. There's dice in that, but you know what's going to happen. There's three things that will happen when you roll these dice. Okay, I can plan for that. So I'm glad you put it that way because I think you just made me define it for myself.
Hmm.
Um, and then the older Euro games are just incredibly boring thematically. 'Cause,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
that's
know,
right. This dry kind of theme applied to it, right?
yeah. My buddy Johnny Pack, his game Sierra West was some outlet made it was like runner up Euro of the year for them, and the description and Johnny shared this with me. He thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. The description is it said Sierra West, just another soulless Euro about washing pans in a stream.
That's good. That's right.
Uh,
Hey, at least he didn't make it about trading in the Mediterranean. There was a period of time when everything was about trading in the Mediterranean. All the Euro games had that theme, it seemed like.
I'm happy to say I don't have a single trading in the Mediterranean game. I'm
I don't have a
happy to
single
say
one either. I have at least 10 or 12 of them over here, I think.
you have all of them.
That's right.
There's a single one you don't have.
I'm sure there's a couple if you look to some of the obscure ones, but it was so common at the time. I do like your point about the rolling dice. I want to add one thing to it if you don't mind, right?
Yeah.
I think I like the way the Euro game and Ameristyle spectrum has blended into one another. So I like the way that we have Ameritrashy Ameristyle games incorporating Euro elements and Euro games that are incorporating Ameritrashy or America style elements. You think about the dice rolling though, and I definitely have a few examples of games that have a dice rolling mechanism that I would classify as a Euro game. But that's usually because, like you hit it on the head in Euphoria, you're not rolling those dice to determine the output of some event, right? Something that you're going to roll the dice and that's going to affect what happened. Rather, you're rolling the dice to see what you have to make decisions with. So you think about Coimbra, you think about Euphoria, you're rolling the dice, but then you're not taking actions until after the dice are rolled. In a lot of the Ameritrashy type games, you're deciding to do something, then you're rolling the dice to see what happened. And that's
Yeah.
two different
Oh
uses.
yeah, yeah. It's the reverse order. I mean,
Exactly.
the orders are swapped. You know, you talking about it, and I mean, I know I'm sure you have it coming because I've talked to you for 20 minutes. But Merchant's Cove, which
Oh
do you have
yeah.
that one?
Well, I've
Uh,
kickstarted. I'm waiting on it to get here. I'm looking
no,
forward to it a lot.
yeah, you can't see it. I got the only
Oh man.
prototype left in America, right over
Wow.
there. But one of those characters, the blacksmith, it's all you're rolling dice constantly. But never in my life would I ever said, "Oh, that's a Ameritrash style character." And but I think you hit the nail on the head. It's you do that, and then okay, I know what I have.
Yeah.
Make a plan. Make a plan. The other thing I find is there's not a ton of player interaction in Euro games. Like it's hard to get a lot.
They're getting better at incorporating that, though. I think you're absolutely right. If you look at some of the older Euro games, right, the classics that we think of, that was always the criticism that was placed against them was, very little player interaction, or it's I would say that it's indirect player interaction. It can add up to a lot of influence over the course of a game, but it's very indirect. In many a marriage style games or marriage trashy games, it's clear. I'm playing this card, and this a got you card, and it's hitting you, right? Uh, but the interactions are much more subtle and less antagonistic. It seems like in a lot of the Euro games,
Yeah, like I took the space you wanted.
right?
Okay, you know. No, sponsors, notice how he took a sip of
That's
that
right.
beer.
Oh, and it tastes so good.
Oh, look at that. I mean, he is growing hair,
That's
everyone.
it's
That's
amazing.
that's how good that beer was. I'm recently into Euros. It was actually playing Merchant's Cove. That was oh, these are fun. And then suddenly like the floodgates. So I'm more recently into Euros. But
Hmm.
what are your favorites in your collection? I'm guessing you're going to say Puerto Rico's one of them.
Puerto Rico. I mean, it has a particular place because again, that was one of the first games that I picked up and played. And I was also so yes, Puerto Rico is definitely on the list. As far as classics go, there are a couple that are there, and that's probably the most prominent one. Years ago, Puerto Rico was number one on the Board Game Geek list before games exploded, and it was there for a long, long time. And there are certain things I look at, and it solved a lot of problems that we had at the time. For instance, downtime was a huge problem. A lot of the games that families were playing, it's like on your turn, you roll the dice, you do something. Everybody else is kind of sitting around and waiting on whatever happens. Puerto Rico was the first game where you make a decision, and that decision is sort of carried out by everybody around that table, which meant you were always engaged in that game from beginning to end. And further, you combine that with the fact that it plays relatively quickly, right? You're talking an hour, hour and a half at most, usually. And it hit that real sweet spot. It solved an interesting problem that we had, and now you look back and it's still an amazing design. I think we reviewed it a few podcasts ago, and it's so unusual for us to pull a game out from that far back and review it, but this one deserved it, I think. The fact there's so little randomness in the game, if you think about it, the only randomness in the game is a few tiles that you're going to flip over at the beginning of the game. That's it. Everything else, and they come out random, but that it's very little randomness inserted in that system. So that's one of the classics. Kalis is another one. Kalis was one I sort of fell in love with, and like you said, that had a little bit more of a nasty element to it, in that you could move the provost, if I recall. And I may be getting that word wrong. There were two, the provost and somebody else, but you could move it so that certain actions
Yeah,
didn't
the
take
marriage
place.
killer, I think he's called.
That's right. But I played a lot of games with that where it's like, okay, I'm going to move this two spaces back to kind of screw you, and they're like, well, I'm moving it 2 spaces back to screw you. And he's like, I'm moving it 2 spaces pretty soon. Nobody's taking any actions beyond the basic ones that round
You're all just
because
shouting "screw you" at each other, and
that's right. But it wasn't that nasty, right? It was indirect. It wasn't this, I'm just going straight for you. It's like you could kind of screw people, but you make yourself a bit vulnerable as well. Now, Terra Mystica, that's a game that I fell in love with as well. Don't know if you've had a chance to play Terra Mystica or
No,
Gaia
but
Project.
I've heard you guys
Ooh.
talk about it a lot, and I guess in Gaia Project also, which I gather is pretty much the same.
It's very, very close. I mean, you could definitely tell if you played those two games independently, you could tell that one of them was built off of the mechanisms of the other.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about Terra Mystica is it flows quickly. There's a visual aspect to it on the board, right? An area control type aspect. And further, it was one of the first games I can recall, at least, where you have pieces on your board, and as you build them onto the main board, you expose income, right? Almost like the um, scythe.
Yeah, so
I maybe
yeah,
scythe
as
has
you
an
upgrade,
aspect of
yeah, a little
this.
bit.
Yeah, has an
That's a pretty
aspect of this.
common Euro thing now, I think.
It is
You
now. But I
yeah.
think Terra Mystica was one of the first things that sort of triggered that. You also got your Alexander Pfister games, right? Great Western Trail, Maracaibo. Love those designs. A lot of Stefan Feld games I like. I don't know how many Stefan Felds you've played, but Trajan, Castles of
That
Burgundy.
many.
Oh
Never
man,
played a
oh,
single
are you
one.
serious?
Yeah, I know. Are you going to log off now?
You got to go play Castles of Burgundy immediately, and then the audience can rejoin us for the remainder of this podcast to make it legitimate. Will
No, no, we're just gonna stay right here. Like,
play it.
yeah. Could you set it up and I can watch because I don't have a copy of it.
It
And
remains
yes,
one of those games that I can teach cold, right? And just go through that game and play it because it is such a great design. You look at a lot of the failed games and he's definitely got his formula. The criticism against his games is they're almost devoid of theme, right? They're very mechanical by nature, but the mechanisms are so good and interact with each other so well that you get a feeling from playing his games you don't get from other people's games.
yeah. So it's interesting. So that's actually the reason why I've avoided picking any of them up is because for me, I theme
Yeah.
theme really speaks to
I
me, but
mean,
it's the games that really find a way to everything you do speaks to that theme. Those are the games I'm just like, whew, I can't stop. I can't stop thinking about. There's one that's the area control game. It's coming back to Kickstarter in I don't know January or something. It's this area control game called Theurgy.
hmm,
It's about you're this half forgotten god, and you all of you are, and you're trying to get your acolytes, your two acolytes out there to make you the most prominent god in the land. But every single thing you do is when I was taught by the designer, he's like, okay, and this is this, and he starts telling me the thematic reason behind every single thing,
hmm.
like everything, and it blew my mind. So I'm always thinking about that. But that's why I've always avoided Feld games because everybody always says, well, if you're looking for a theme, go watch a movie. But if you want the best mechanics ever, this is your jam. So give me the one. What's the one I got to get?
The one you got to get. Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot here.
Yeah, on the
I,
spot, Stefan. I hope you're listening.
I got two that come to mind. I'm gonna give you one in just a minute. So I think it's got to be Castles of Burgundy. That's the one. Yeah.
That has like a million expansions, right?
It has a variety of expansions. There's a newer version that's got a lot of those expansions into the box, right? The deluxe edition. But you got to be careful. That deluxe edition has some aspects, not unlike some other deluxe editions we've seen come out that are inferior to the original. But as far as the amount of content that you get, it's pretty good. I don't think you can really go wrong with either version. And there are definitely some criticisms you could lay against it. But Castles of Burgundy, it's one of those games that you think of that's definitely a Euro, but you're rolling some dice. The thing about Fails games is after you've completed the game, you've gone down a strategic path clearly, but that path was made up of these very small decisions you made throughout the process. So you're never overwhelmed with options. It's only you got two dice. You're going to use a die to do something, and it's either this or this or this. That's it. And but after it's all done, you branched off so many times, and your board looks completely different from someone else's board. You accentuated things they didn't accentuate. You de-emphasized things other people emphasized. Um, yeah, so Castles of Burgundy, that's the one. If you're looking for a second one, because I know you are, because I know you are, Will.
That was pro. That was politician level.
Thank you.
The public speak, and they say, if you finish your
Jump right
thought
in.
as you're going up, people take that breath and boom, You can
That's
jump
right.
in. All right. All right. Well, what's number two? What's number
The
two?
number two is Trajan. I'm not going to go nearly as far into that as I did Castles of Burgundy. Trajan is, I think, even though Castles of Burgundy is probably in my opinion, the best game he's made, Trajan has a feel to it because of the Mancala mechanism that the others don't. And I really like Mancala mechanisms because you have to look at a board, you have to move pieces in a pick up a pile and drop them off around this circle with 6 spaces. And so it's almost like you want things to happen on the board, but you have to solve this puzzle of how you flex this mechanism to make that happen. And there's just something great about that no other game has really even approached when it comes to Mon mechanisms, in my opinion. So Castles of Burgundy 1, Trajan number 2.
All right. All right. Okay. All right. I will look up Castles of Burgundy if my wife will like it. Is my wife gonna like it? You don't know my
She,
wife. You've never met her.
my, I haven't, but I know she's married to a great guy, so she's got that going
Oh
for her.
my gosh.
My wife
You need
likes
to send
Castles
those
of
brownie
Burgundy.
points to your wife there, buddy.
That's right.
So, is it
See, I
safe to
gave you a
say?
compliment. I took it completely off track there, Will. I'm
I
sorry.
know. I know. I'm totally. And I'm gonna leave it in. I'm gonna leave that pause
You
in.
should.
I'm gonna, because that's a lot of work to find it. Um, the so is it safe to say is Feld your favorite Euro designer, or is there somebody else?
I don't know. It's close, man. I mean, I think it is failed as far as Eurogame. When you widen the aperture a bit, there are different designers for non-Euro games that I like quite a bit. Eric Lang comes to mind, but failed is probably my favorite. I got to be honest though, Alexander Pfister is making a case for being one of the best, if not the best, because some of the games he's put out, like I said, Great Western Trail and Maracaibo, those games are just top notch as well.
And the I believe his new one, Cloud City, Cloud.
Future Hungry Gamer here. The title of the game is actually Cloud Age, not Cloud City.
Something other. I think he
Is
has.
I'm not sure if that. I'll have to look this up. Usually, Maracaibo surprised me a little bit. I'll have to look up Cloud City and see if that's his as well.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out. It uses with that one of those mechanics like Mystic Veil does with the cards, and it's
Oh
like you
yeah.
put cards in sleeves, but the clouds cover some parts, and I think that's Fister. I think I've just heard a tiny little bit about it. But I guess he's not really your favorite designer because you didn't know.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Can't
Well,
be.
watch it's not Fister at all. It's some dude named Fred.
That's right.
Uh, uh, yeah. So I think for me it's Johnny Pack right now, and he only has a few games out. So that's the thing. He's got Sierra West is out, Hangtown / Coloma is out, but I've been lucky enough that I've gotten that. I got yeah, right here. I got Lines of Lydia behind my big old head. There we go. I got Lines of Lydia there. I got Merchant's Cove over there, and I hope your wallet's ready for Tuesday because he's the lead developer on Endless Winter, which is
Okay.
that's designed by Stan Kordonsky, same guy who did Lock Up, and that's not his biggest one. That's the one that comes to mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. Rurik is also his, if I
Yeah,
recall
yeah,
correctly.
Rurik, that's his biggest one. Yeah, yeah. But this game, Endless Winter, Johnny Pack's the lead developer on, and Drake Villarreal did the solo AI on, and so I got to preview that one. And I know how much you like Lacerda games.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Lacerda game if you didn't want to deal with Lacerda.
Mm.
Is what it feels like. I mean, it just you have all these little systems running together, and I'll get around to why I'm talking about Johnny Pack in this in just a sec. All these little systems going on. You're going to build a Stonehenge style monument. You're doing that. You're hunting. You're expanding your land. You're getting more people in your tribe. You're building sacred stones. All these different things, but they all come together perfectly.
Ooh.
Just, and that's why I like Johnny Pack is everything he works on, it's just elegant. It's not the
Yeah.
most complicated, but everything works, and there's almost never a wasted move in any of his games that I found. And so, and I don't care about the Old West, and that's his jam, but I don't
That is
care.
his jam.
Well, if you ever meet him, you'll see. You will understand.
I did meet him. I met him at Gen Con
Oh,
two
then
two
then you
years
get
ago,
it.
I think. Yep,
Yeah.
he taught. That's where I picked up. I think it was Gen Con where he taught Sierra West. I went to pick up a copy, and they said, "Hey, you want to learn the game?" I said, yeah, I want to learn the game. So we sat down, and he actually taught it with his hat on. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. On a total side note, if you see him again, ask him what happened to his hotel. He has this hilarious story about, well, it's not funny in the way he tells it. The hotel caught on fire
Oh,
because
that doesn't
while he
sound
was
funny.
there, Well, no, that's not funny, but the rest of it's funny. I promise when he tells it. But the image that he left me with is the sprinklers came on, and he said, and I was running out of there in my Crocs like Gus from Cinderella with all my games that I had just bought, so they didn't get wet. And he's running around, and then he sees himself later on TV in the background, like leaving the hotel with his stack of games, while it's burning.
That's funny.
But yeah, so he's definitely become my number one. Like, I mean, pretty much anything that he puts out, I'll go for it. And I'm lucky enough that he lives 2 hours away
Mhm.
or something like. So we at the local cons when we did those things, I'd get to see him and try out his stuff. And so yeah, anything he puts out, well, first thing I'll do is I'll contact the publisher and beg to be able to preview. Then after that, I will go back it. Yeah. So
I think that's a great choice. Even though Johnny Pack has not been on the scene very long, I think he's made a huge splash. I mean, you think about when I first heard about Hangtown, I'm a big fan of Race for the Galaxy, and Hangtown sort of has that tableau building aspect to it. And the reviews look good from Board Game Geek, and so I said, let's take a shot here. And I picked it up and played it. And I was like, this is great. This is absolutely great. So I took it to Beer Monger, showed it to the guys, and they loved it too. And then we was
they
like,
said this
okay.
art is terrible.
Well, we did, but you could tell it was the fact that the game shone through what one would think of as sort of, not top level production quality, because he didn't have the reputation at the time, as far as I know, to demand that a little bit. But I think he's built that up. If you look at Coloma, and especially Merchant's Cove, which I don't have yet, but having looked at the Kickstarter page,
you're gonna love it so much.
the components
Oh,
are
man.
gorgeous. You look at Coloma and you got that magnetized spinny thing, and it's beautiful. The production quality is great, and you marry that up with. I'm with you. I think Johnny Pack's games are great. I have yet to play a game by him. One you didn't mention that's a smaller game is A Fistful of Meeples. It's also a great game.
I was just thinking about that one when I picked that up from him at a local con. My brother came out to go. They had a proto spiel going on, so came out, test his game and stuff. And he'd played some of Johnny's other games, and I pulled this one out. We had a few minutes, and he looked at Johnny. He's like, "How the hell you come up with this stuff?
Yeah,
like what? Where does this come from? It's just great. That's a
good choice. Yeah, I couldn't argue with that, because I'm really a fan of Johnny Pack's games. Well, he's reached the upper echelon for me, so that whatever he produces, I'm going to pick up. Yeah. And that's part of the reason that I backed Merchant's Cove, because although he's not the main designer, right? I mean, he did development on it, and I think his games are clearly developed down to a fine edge.
Yeah.
And he also did the expansion content.
He designed some of the characters for Merchant's
Cool.
Cove. Yeah, so he did development, and then him, Carl, and Drake have their hands heavily into different characters. And there's 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
I don't know. I assume
it looks good.
all of them.
Yes, I am. Come on, you know me.
Well, oh my gosh, the most amazing thing was when I backed Merchants of the Dark Road, I did not get the deluxe.
Really?
I did it.
Oh man,
it felt so good.
Did it really?
Oh, I mean, not the moment, but now that I look back, and we just got the email, we're delayed till 2027 or whatever. I was like, yeah, but it was just the basic one. I'm okay with that.
You found a silver lining here in a sense. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, it feels good. It's hard. But man, boy, we have gone off on the tangents like crazy.
Sorry.
No, I'm okay with it. But that gets us right into our Kickstarter problem. I talked earlier about how my buddy Streamline Matt and we try to shame each other out of backing stuff as much as we can. I assume you have no one that does that for you.
No, in fact, well, we do it, but it's all a joke, right? Anytime any one of us backs, the only word we send each other is junkie. We'll just text and say junkie, and then we immediately back it too. So what happens is you see this viral backing that happens right alongside, viral insults of people telling other people they should be backing this many things, but somehow we all go in on these things.
Yeah, is it true or false that you guys were half of the supporters of Bag Full of Penis?
I don't know about that. Not us. It's not us, but definitely people that we know, and they have been appropriately shamed.
Everybody who's listening, I will find the Secret Cabal episode number, and I will put that in the description so you can figure out what we're talking about.
So it may be
Don,
they
think you are a horrible person right now.
It may be the funniest clip I think the Cabal either with myself included or not, has ever recorded. Because yes, there was a Kickstarter called Bag of Penis, and of course it made it into our news, and Tony was reading about it, and so he had to say the word penis many times. And every time he said it, Jamie went in and bleeped it. And the way it sounds now is as if Tony was using all these different offensive words in those. It's the funniest thing ever. So normally I'm not a self promoter, but go listen to that part of the podcast. I think you guys will find it. I laughed so hard when I heard it.
It's so funny, and I'm proud to say I did not go look at that Kickstarter. I did not want the Facebook ads that were going to come from the fact that I
Yeah,
had looked
that's
at
right.
that. I couldn't do it, and I'm sure I couldn't have lived up to, to that discussion. But what do you got coming imminently? And I'll say imminently between now and December 31st,
Oh,
because
okay,
because we don't have all day.
right. This is odd because I don't track too closely the delivery dates on a lot of things. Okay, so I don't know if these things are actually coming prior to December 31st, but because I found that only pain and madness lie down this path of pining for something to come. Right, the watch pot never boils. So
Yeah,
generally
it's
I'll
not it's
back it
not
and let it
until
go.
it's like on the boat that start and like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm jonesing. Not
So
till it's on the boat.
there's three that come to mind actually. The first one is Ether Fields. I don't know if you heard this. This is an Awakened Realms game. And it's not tainted grailish in the mechanisms as far as I know, but it has that sort of epic campaign type approach. And I'm looking forward to that because that's from Awakened Realms. I have yet to be disappointed about anything Awakened Realms has done.
Yeah, Tom Vassell, I just listened to a review that he did on their podcast, and he loves it.
Excellent.
That boy, that's one of the ones that I backed, and then me and Matt we started going at it, and I was like, oh, no, all right, no, it's not. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen. I'm not going to do it. And so I'm waiting for you guys to review it, so you can be like, so you're disappointed about it, and then I can feel good.
You feel better? Okay. It's good
Well,
to have hope. That'll keep you going, Will.
I know it. For everything I've heard is it's just fantastic. All right,
Yeah.
so that one's coming. So that
Yep.
one is actually coming soon. Like
Yeah. I know that one's relatively imminent. That one I know. Um, Merchants Cove. I don't know when that's delivering. I'm guessing that's early 2021. Is that right?
December, January is what they say.
Okay.
So you might have it. I
Okay.
don't know.
I'm looking
I don't know
forward to
how it's
that one.
going.
And the last one I'll mention here is Altar Quest. And I don't know exactly. I think that one's shipping in November. Does that sound right?
Yeah, so that's on my list too. I just went and looked at the Kickstarter today because I knew what we got on the boat like 7 months ago, and so I've been
Right.
jonesing for it. Slowest boat. Like
Yeah.
I think they were rowing that thing.
That's right.
Uh, but that one, from everything, the backers who are harassing Quartermaster Logistics have been reporting that it might start shipping next week.
Oh, I am really looking forward to it then. I'm a
Yeah,
fan of all the Sadler Brothers designs, right? I've got Brook City and
Street
Street
Masters.
Masters, and then of course I always forget the name of this one. The one they released through Fantasy Flight Games. It was a card game. It had that same mechanism. Was it
Heroes of Terranoth? That
Here's a
one?
Terranoth? Yep,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yep. Really a fan of this mechanism they have where it's a co-op, but everyone is sort of controlling a certain portion, not all, but a certain portion of the AI and the quote unquote bad guys or monsters that you're fighting in the game. That works really well in their game. So I'm looking forward to
Misunderstood
that one.
creatures.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, they're misunderstood. Come on, I'm in
Okay.
California here. We are.
Sorry.
We gotta understand. Uh, yeah, that one. Yeah, I'm really excited about that one. I sold my Aftershock bundle because I just literally don't have enough space for two Sadler Brother games
Yeah.
in my room. I mean, and that they fill the same void. And I was much more excited about the fantasy theme than the Dungeons, no, not Dungeons and Dragons, the Double Dragon Street Fighter type thing. Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. I'm hoping one of my little monthly podcasts I put out talking about what I'm looking forward to playing. I had the hope. I put it out there in the universe that I was going to have it in October, so I'm not a liar on film.
Yeah.
We'll see. So yeah, I got that one coming. Merchants Cove and Canvas. I don't know if you knew about that one.
Yeah. I back that as well.
Oh well, that
Yeah.
in theory that's coming.
Oh, is it really? That's really quick. That's a quick delivery on that Kickstarter then,
Yeah,
right?
well, not as quick as Galaxy Hunters. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, I saw that one as well.
Like that they just closed their pledge manager today. It closed like 2 weeks ago, the Kickstarter, and it's supposed to come in December.
That's pretty quick. You got to wonder if they have like in order to deliver that quickly, you would think they have them stockpiled somewhere, right? They've already gone through the production process, but I don't know how they, sort of projected how many copies of that they would sell via
Yeah,
Kickstarter.
I have no idea. I mean, as near as I can figure, it was published on Brazil's version of Kickstarter or something like that. Because
Mhm.
so it seems like they maybe had the base game and like all the molds and stuff all done, which I guess is the sculpting and stuff is a big part of it. And so it's just translating. Yeah, I don't know, but the part of me backed it just because I was like, no way. There's no way.
You
There's
just want to
huge,
see. Yeah.
yeah, there's huge miniatures in this thing. There is no
Right.
way this is showing up. But I haven't gotten the gonna get hit with Chinese New Year email yet. Like,
Oh,
when
yeah,
are
it
people
always
gonna learn?
comes.
When are they gonna
Yeah.
learn? Death, taxes, Chinese New Year. Like it's gonna happen. Stop playing.
Yeah, that's
Like,
why I don't watch them anymore because it's like, that's they're coming too, right? So almost everyone be like, oh, what do you know? Chinese New Year hit and it's going to cause a delay. It's like, this is the way it goes.
yep, the Merchants of the Dark Road. They hit that, and then I had Oath Sworn. I don't know if you heard of that one.
Is this, I think this is different. I'm thinking of Oath, I believe, which is the leader games.
Yeah, the
Okay.
different one.
Yeah.
This one is kind of like a Kingdom Death Monster type thing because it's only boss
Hmm.
fights, but it's this huge sprawling campaign, and they had some guy from Game of Thrones is doing all the narration. It comes with
Mm.
the narration, and originally it was supposed to be in December. So I just went and looked, and I just went in the comments. So is it safe to say this is Chinese New Year? And someone's like, "Oh, yeah, they told us that 4 months ago. It's not
Mm.
coming until next December or something." My little nerd heart cried.
Yeah. Yeah. Chinese New Year's the bane of gamers all over the place.
Yeah, it's I just don't understand why no one why it keeps happening. I mean the new year. I know why the new year keeps happening.
I can explain how this calendar thing works, Will, but
I have this game called Sulkin. I'll teach you about it.
that's right.
Um,
See how it goes all the way around and we're back to where we started.
oh, but yeah, I just don't understand why it keeps getting Chinese New Year. Like you have to know it's coming.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna happen. For my life, there's a couple companies out there that I appreciate a lot because they add such huge buffers. Like Pencil First Games, like almost always adds a big old buffer, so they're almost always early. It's fantastic.
That is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, and you stop, you look at it, and like they put the timeline, and it's got the little colors, and it's got red buffer, and it's like everything's like this big, and then, poof. But they always make it. But anyhow, we've just gone deep into nerd kickstarted them.
That's good though.
The four of you that are still listening, we'll jump into the saddest thing we're going to talk about: conventions.
Mm.
Like, oh, this was supposed to be my first Gen Con. I was supposed to go this
Oh,
year.
really? You haven't
Well,
gone before?
no, because so last year I went to Origins. I
Oh,
was like, okay,
excellent.
I'm gonna do one big one every year, and then we were supposed to take my wife and I and our friends are supposed to go to Australia. So Origins was out. I was like, okay, I'll do Gen Con. So I haven't gotten to go, but it did get me thinking about the favorite moments from convention. So all right, I'm gonna say pick one, but I've already listened to you, so I know you're gonna pick at least two or three. So I came up with two. I got my 1A, my 1B. So
Okay. All
your
right.
favorite memories.
So my
And
favorite.
bonus points if it's one that you haven't talked about on Secret Cabal.
Oh man. Oh, that's so hard.
Bonus points for that.
All right, I got one. I'm gonna save your listeners and your viewers though. I can't tell that one. That might get me in trouble. I better not do that.
Oh, you
Uh,
absolutely should do that.
okay, I'll do it then. So here, the
Oh wow, I
funniest.
really twisted your.
You, I was ready to do it. I just needed the go word. So, so we were at a Cabal meetup. For those of you that don't know, the Secret Cabal has at Origins and Gen Con, we have meetups, right? And this is where a lot of the fans of the podcast come and kind of hang out with everybody. And we've met tons and tons of people that are now just friends through that. And we were there one year, and this has been 5 or 6, 7 years. It's been a while back. The Cabal wasn't, you know, the Cabal actually at one point had like 1,000+ people at some meetup, something crazy, right? Just untenable.
It sounds like a
But
nightmare. That's
it
so many
was a little
people.
bit. It was a little bit. But this is before those times when the meetup was probably 100 people, something like that. But it was 100 people in a small hotel bar, right? The big bar on two for those that have been to Origins. There's in one of the hotels joining the convention center. We were there, so there were too many people for the bathrooms, right? So if you went to the bathroom, you kind of had to stand in line. And I remember I got there in line. So, there are guys at the urinals doing their business, and then there's like I don't know, 7 or 8 guys standing there. We're waiting. Right, we're
Now,
waiting.
was this when you were just a fan of the Cabal, or was this when you were already in the
No,
group?
I was just a fan. I wasn't on the podcast yet. Well before that. And I remember this guy opens a door and he looks in and he sees all the people and he says what someone would naively say, which is he said, he said, he said, "Oh, is there a line?" And just real quick, without even thinking about it, I said, "Nah, man, we just like to watch." And the whole bathroom erupted in laughter. Never have I ever heard a whole bathroom erupt in laughter like that. So that's one of my favorite memories. Very self-serving though, because
It's
I told the joke that I was proud of.
Steve can eat his heart out that your jokes
That's right.
work, right?
That's right. We often joke about this.
Oh wow, okay, all right. So well, I don't have one that's literally that dirty. Um, but so it was both of these could come from Origin. So I'll do my one B first. So my buddy Matt again, he came with me that year, and he brought Root, the game that you've never played at a convention because
That's right.
you
Because
never
Tony
have.
won't do it.
Yeah. And so, but you know how you kind of like you walk around the convention, you hold up your little box lid to try to get random people to play because we wanted to get a 6-player game. We had the expansion, wanted to do it. All right, well, we're going to be
Oh,
here for 5 hours. We're doing this, and so we got all these people there, and just organically, every almost everybody developed their own accent and voice for their faction. So I was playing the Otters, and I was like, Foghorn Leghorn meets Mark Twain, and I have a deal for you. Just come on. But then this guy who never played before was playing the Cats, and suddenly he became these German fascists, and it led up to this moment where the Woodland Alliance, they had the little fist tokens that they put out,
yeah.
and whoever was put that out in one of his clearings, he goes, "You put your fist in my cat place, meow!" And just our table and 2 tables next to us had no idea what was going on, just exploded. And the guy's wife looked at him like he was just trash.
Do you know what you just said? Yeah.
Oh.
So Jamie would be a huge fan of that because he loves it when you insert accents and stuff like that in the games. You role play a bit. In fact, we do some online gaming, and he's always we play this game Dead by Daylight, which is a sort of one killer and multiple humans trying to escape, and so the killers run around killing people. And we're communicating on Discord, and he's always got this Freddy accent, regardless of which killer he's playing. He's always doing the Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street voice.
Yeah. Well, and I can't play that game without thinking of the Cats as these Germans
Yeah.
ever, ever
Isn't that
again.
funny? So those are great moments though, right?
Yeah.
Because they sort of these moments are imprinted on the games, and every time you play the game from then on, it gives you such a great memory. And in addition to the fun you're having playing the game itself, that's one of the beauties of board gaming, right?
Yeah, I mean, I also, as I think about it, like it was one of the best games of Root I've ever seen. I mean, there was the poor guy who'd never played before. He was playing the Erie, and he went into turmoil, I think, 7 times. Like, just
Oh,
so he was at the back, but all the rest of the 5 of us were within like 6 points or 5 points at the end. I mean, one of the best games Root I've ever seen. But
that's good.
no, your fist in my cat place, meow. Oh, so good. All right, so that's my one B. My one B.
Okay.
What's your top?
So my top here is this was the first year I had gone to Origins, and I remember Chris Miller. This is when I had met the Cabal well before I was on the podcast, and I'd known him for I don't know a year, give or take. It had been a while. I'd been game with him for a bit, right? And he saw me at Origins. I was like, "Hey, Chris, how's it going?" He was walking out of the merch hall, and he said, "Hey, are you going to Gen Con?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm probably not." I was really on the fence because I'd never been to Gen Con. I enjoyed Origins. I wanted to, but nothing to push me over the edge. He says, "We got room in the room if you want to join." And I was like, um, it's like I enjoy playing with the guys so much. Like that sounds like fun. So I was like, all right, I'll get tickets. So I got my tickets to Gen Con, showed up, and there are 6 of us. Maybe it was 4 of us. I take this back, Will. So 4 of us. We go up to the room. We walk in the room, and it's this tiny room with 2 beds. And I was like, well, I guess this is adjoining another room, right? Is there another room hooked to it or whatever? I looked at Jamie. There was silence in the room. And Jamie looks back and he just says, con life, baby. And then I knew it was like, okay, we're going to be out gaming all the time. We're going to come back here to occasionally crash. And needless to say, since then, I've always taken my
30 minutes of
inflatable
spooning is all you need to get charged up
mattress.
each night. That's it.
You know, how many people can say they have slept in a bed with Rodney Smith? I can say that at this point.
I would imagine he's a very generous spooner, being a Canadian.
That's right. And quite warm, it turns out.
Oh man, I'm sorry, I can't. Well, the border wasn't already closed. They're not opening it
That's
now.
right.
Like they are keeping that closed. All right, so here's my number one, same origins. And so my buddy again wanted to try this game, Quartermaster Logistics, which I bet you would really like. Do you know that one?
Quartermaster Logistics? You
Yeah,
mean like the shipping company?
Quartermaster General. Sorry, it's called
Okay,
Quartermaster
okay. I
General.
was about to say, whoa. I thought it was a trick question for a
Yeah,
minute there, Will.
yeah, they are so successful. They now have a game. No, sorry, Quartermaster General. It's called Quartermaster General. It's a whole
I have not
series.
played this.
So it's and so I told about I don't like dry themes. The theme of the game is maintaining your supply line during war. All right, I was like, you owe me. All right, we're gonna play this. And then it was World War One, where nothing happened.
Right. It's slow anyway.
Yeah. And then we go, but I'm like, that's cool. Like, whatever. I'm gonna try something new. So we go, we sit down, and the guy teaching it and the other three or four people at the table were the stereotype historic war gamers. Older, middle-aged men who just will rip out your soul and stomp on it as they crush you like the dirt you are. Like that like
Yeah.
they exist. That they are why the stereotype exists. They're nice enough guys before we started playing. And so we sit down and I'm like focused. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be so complicated. I got this, I'm focused, and the guy's explaining and I'm listening, I'm checking off, okay, you gotta do this, gotta do this. And the guy next to me to the left, not paying a damn bit of attention. And I was already on tilt because it was late and I was tired. I'm like, I'm playing this dumb game or here we go. And he's going around and people are asking questions. Like, okay, the guy's, all right, I got it. So I can do this, this, and this. And I say, well, no, because if you do that, that messes up this other rule. Like, look, the rules don't matter that much. And I was like, mother effer, the
Right.
rules are all that matters. All right. And so we're going around and then he says something else. And the guy running it says, no, actually, you're wrong. It's this. And people just listening, you're not going to be able to really see this. But I swear to you, the guy responds like this. He just goes, and 10 seconds, just death stare. And the other guy's just staring back like a sitcom cartoon. So we're going through, I'm like, oh my God. So we finally start playing. And the game's actually pretty cool. If you plan ahead, you got like 3 things you can do, play a card, move on. But only me and my buddy were doing that. Everybody else, they'd wait till it got there. Then they'd be like, oh, so what's happening here at the table? And then they'd pick up their cards. And the
Oh,
guy
man.
next to me, every time he would play, then he'd get up and he would walk all the way across. This is the historic wargaming room and Origins. He'd walk all the way across to the corner where he'd stashed his bag and mix himself a drink, and then walk all the way back. And we're going through, and my buddy Matt's across the table, and I'm just so done with this game because my partner, I was the Germans, and my partner was, I don't know, Austria or whoever it is, and my buddy Matt just waxed him.
Ooh.
Like 2 turns in, just obliterated him. And so it's just me against the rest of the world playing on. I'm just texting my buddy Matt his Apple Watch, and it would start showing up, and he'd just be slapping his arm over it so no one could see it. And I never want to play that game again, ever.
Yeah.
But that moment was the epitome of like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, but it was so much fun. So
Yeah.
that's a long, depressing
No,
one.
but that's a good one.
That's my top. It's fan.
On our latest
I
podcast,
just
we
wish
talked about.
I could bottle that look.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, now you
that
got a
death
visual
stare was
record
just
of it. This is good.
amazing.
These guys taking it serious, so it sounded like.
Totally.
On our latest podcast, we talked about the discussion topic was nightmare scenarios or something like that, and we sort of went through those things, and that would have fit in.
So great. But that said, you being the mathy kind of guy, I bet you would like the Quartermaster General series. It
I'll
is
have to check it
very
out.
interesting if you like historic themes. I don't. I always have a problem because I don't want to. It was World War One, so different, but I don't want to be the Nazis.
Yeah.
And like, even worse, if I'm the Allies, what if I'm terrible and I let the Nazis win? Like that, is
Right.
that worse? I don't know. Like that might be worse. Great. All right. So game that you love, that no one else is with you on, but that you're never getting rid of, but you just love it. Well, what's that one?
So this game is an easy one actually, and I'm betting most of the people that watch aren't or listening or haven't heard of it. But it's actually a game by Martin Wallace from, I'm guessing it's about 15 years ago now. It's called Tempus, Tempus, and it was basically sold as a quick civilization building game. Now, whenever you do that kind of thing, this was at a time when, the original Civilization and Advanced Civilization, that was the epitome of civilization games. And anything that fell short of that mount was just garbage, right? And this was one of those things that was sort of billed as a civilization game in an hour and a half. And of course, what it really is an area control game with a few relatively minor civilization elements to it. And so it was really disappointing to a lot of people that had been invested in civilization games for a long time. But for me, I thought it was a very good playing game. Everyone I've shown it to has thought it was okay, but not great. But I love playing that game. It just has mechanisms in it I love a lot. And it was one of those Martin Wallace games that um, was very interesting, but didn't have that economic aspect to it, right? And that was his stick at the time, economic and train games. And this was sort of different. And for me, it was one of the first sort of quick playing mini civilization games. And I, it caught on to me, and I've just loved it ever since. And I've got that copy in my basement right now, and I'm never getting rid of it. I'll have it forever. But nobody else seems to appreciate it like I do.
Sorry, Beer Mongers 2.0 will be the first game you bust out.
Yeah. So I actually busted out. Chris didn't like it. He talked about it on the show, and Chris was like, I thought it was okay.
Did he actually say he didn't like it though on the show, on air?
He didn't. He said it was just okay. It wasn't great. Right. And for Chris to say that, come on, that means he didn't like it.
Yeah. So for me, it's one of the first games I got, and it's, to me, the purest take that card game out there. Red Dragon Inn.
Oh,
and
yeah.
to me, and I mean, it gets a lot of heat. I'd be like, it's terrible. But if you are just looking for take that card game and some laughs and are okay with elimination, but you're willing to be the characters, it's brilliant. It's so much fun if you're willing to do that. Like I'm down the rabbit hole. I got like all of it. The huge box.
Oh, really?
Weighs like 30 pounds.
A lot of stuff's been released for that game.
Oh, it's a ton. It's dumbfounding. Like that is their golden goose. But I can see someone like Jamie digging it because he likes the role play aspect.
Right.
So when I used to like to play it was after something very story heavy, after you've done your D&D campaign or whatever. Yeah. Then okay, well, you go to the pub. But so for me, that's my game that I actually get a lot of non-gamers into playing that. Like because it's not hard. There's 4 rules and then a million variants, but it's all written on the card. Go ahead. So that's the one for me. But
no, I like that one too. Not nearly to the extent you do, I don't think. But
I have a problem.
We all have problems in different ways, that will. But this one I like because the characters are asymmetric, and some characters have different strategies. I mean, their decks play completely different. I like that a lot. That asymmetric sort of party gamerish kind of feel. Yeah. Where the theme is very cool, right? They're all, after they've gotten out of the dungeon, they're just drinking, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, drinking,
getting each other drunk, and yeah, it's great.
And what does it for me is they have the personality of the character is tied into what they're doing. Like my wife's favorite character is Big Ogre. Like he doesn't want to hurt anybody, but he's just so strong. Like he has a card, you hurt everybody at the table, and just picture him like hugging everybody really tight. Right. So she loves that, but yeah, so that's my one. Haven't played Tempest. I'm guessing it's hard to find.
I'm guessing it is too. I don't know because I've got a copy. I hadn't had to look for it lately.
you have the one?
That's right. I might have, similar to you with Merchant's Cove, I might have the one copy in the United States right now.
All right. So almost through. 2 things left. What's on your table right now? You put in the notes something that was on your table, and I say there's not a chance that those games are still on your table right now.
Really? What did I put in the notes? I have to check.
You put on the notes. You put Barrage and Darkest Night.
Did I really? Did I put Barrage on the? It's almost like I got a box here, like I was ready for it.
Is it just an empty box? Is that what?
No. It's on my virtual table because I've played it twice in the last couple of weeks on Tabletop Simulator. So that I've definitely got to the table a few times. This is a game that I love, but I am terrible at this game. I've played it 5-6 times, and I've not even come close to winning any of those times. But I love the game. There's something special about it. I don't know what it is, but I really like it. So that's one thing. I've got a list of things here. I don't know what all you want to go into.
So I actually have 2. The room I'm in now, it's my little my game room, and that's where I do all my filming. I got a small tabletopper here, which I will say I specifically got because of your podcast and because Jamie won't shut up about it.
Excellent.
It's just in the middle all the time, like, fine, I'll buy one. Stop telling me about it. But so on this table right here, it's the one I'm working on a how to play video for. So there we go. Elements of the Gods. It's a new one coming out. Like hitting Kickstarter in a couple of weeks. I think November 17 or something like that. I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of an area control game, but not really. So you got this world where you have all these different types of worshipers, and you're building monuments based on having right worshipers near the monuments, and then you're building gardens, and based on where the gardens are in conjunction to where your monuments are, you score points. But the way you move everything around is you have 5 elements, and so each round you're going to put out fire and water and
Mm.
earth, and each one does a different thing. Like wind shows up and meeples move, and so that's how you move them around where you need them. But my favorite thing about it is the 5th element is death.
Oh, wow.
It's death is your other element, and you just drop it and just everything just dies. You just take everything and you pick 2 of them for your afterlife, because you're a god. So I
Right.
got that on my table, and which I haven't played it yet. I'm just learning it right now, and then
Right.
I'll review it and all. But based on everything you said today, I bet it's going to be up your alley, because
Okay.
it's
I've written it
super
down. I'm going to
it's
check it
super
out.
thinky. It's super thinky. Like there's not a lot of rules, but like the ramifications of everything you do are huge. So there's that one. The other one, oh wait. You get your next one.
Oh,
What's
I'll
your
give
next
you
one?
one more. I'll just give you one more. I already talked about 1960, so that you guys know that's all on the table because I'm taking advantage of the fact that my daughter is part of the public education system, so I can play a game. The other one I have on my table is BIOS Origins. This is actually by Phil Eklund. I don't know. I'm guessing you've never played a Phil Eklund game, but I don't know that.
I
Um,
haven't. Now he's the one that has the really hard to read rule books.
yeah,
And
his rule books are
okay,
very dense,
that's why I've never played one.
and it's almost like the old school 20 years or 30 years ago Wargamer book. Everything is like 3.2.1, 3.2.2, 3, right? And they all cross reference each other. So it takes a long time to kind of get through the rule book. Then it takes a long time to go back through it again because you have to go through it twice. And then it takes a long time to go back through it a third time, which you're going to need before you play the game. But at the other end of that is a game that offers something no other games offer. This one in particular I like because it's a Civ game, which I like Civ games. And it goes like from either 200,000 or 4 million years ago up to present day. And you actually start the game, you're looking at a brain map. And so you're just sort of manipulating how your species brain is situated. That's
Oh, is this the one that ties into 2 other games? Is this
it
what?
is. Yep, that's the one. Because you have BIOS Genesis, you have BIOS Megafauna, and BIOS Origins. And these goes through like, the building blocks of life to sort of the dinosaur times, and then goes up through, sort of current civilization in a sense. There's also a fourth game that can tag onto it called High Frontier, which is sort of the quest to go out into space. I've yet to get through the rule book for that. So, uh, but BIOS Origins, that one I like a lot. And this is a streamed down version, the second version that they've had of it, and it's pretty good. I like it a lot.
When it's all over, you'll have to get a whole day with the whole Cabal crew and just film playing all of them.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that, man. That sounds, as much as I like his games, I don't know that you can keep more than 2 rule sets in your head at any given time.
It's friendship ending. It's a friendship ending
That's
game
right.
right there. All right, so my second one is Chronicles of Crime 1400,
Ooh,
which
I am so looking forward to that.
yeah. So I got sent me a review copy of it, and it's good. It's not a lot of replay. Well, no, zero replay, I guess.
So
Once you
you
learn
go
it, you
through
learn.
it. It's all, I mean, there's a sequence of things that you go through, and does
Oh
it feed
no,
into the 1900 and eventually the 2400
I
or?
don't know. I don't know if it will or not. But I mean, once you've played the right now, I think there's six cases in it right now, and so as near as I can tell, once you've played through all six, you now, if you solved them, But it's like I think it's like a $30 game. It's
Mhm.
good, good value. They did some really cool stuff in there. Like you have a dog that you can take clues and be like, hey, sniff this, Percival, and
Yeah.
he'll run off and tell you where to go. Go find people. They have these really cool little visions that you start each case with, where you're you're starting to look out for things and different visions of what might be coming, and like there are kind of clues, and it's really it's really well done. I really enjoyed it. The big winner here is my wife loves it,
Yeah.
so that's the big winner for
Yeah, I
me.
played the original Chronicles of Crime with my family. We haven't played the noir variant of it, but we've played the original and then Welcome to Redview, I believe it's called, or Redfield. I can't recall. We've played those and they like it a lot. So that's part of the reason I'm looking forward to this. Is
Yeah.
this app driven as well, Will?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. I just put it on the. Oh, I don't have like the glasses or anything. I just put it on the iPad. That's big enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a lot in the box, but it's quick, it's easy, it's well, it's not easy to win, you know. Oh, they
Yeah.
do another cool thing, and I don't know if the original Chronicles of Crime did this or not. They have a if you're just stinking it up, there'll be an inserted clue.
Hmm.
Like we were clearly going off following a red herring, and then suddenly some street urchin showed up and was like, "Oh, there was a fight at this place." And we're like, "Oh, I guess we should go back over
This random
there."
person to get you back on track.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I don't
was like,
recall
you
the
know,
original having that one. You can just go down a path and just be gone.
yeah. So it does that way, which I really appreciate it. Yep, it's you know, and I don't know if you have a lot of Lucky Duck games, but their production is really good on the
Yeah.
stuff they do. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not chip theory games here, you know, but it's really good production. They did Tang Garden, and I just had this other one, Court of Miracles, which is great. I mean, just great production. I'm super impressed with what they're putting out right now. So the last thing, and we'll jump through this quickly. So we got two games we picked to talk about. We got Euphoria and Through the Ages. And so you recommended Through the Ages. I'd never played. I got the app, which is a great app implementation.
Mhm.
I got to say, it's really good. Played it all week. I've yet to win. I beat my brother. I made him download it. I beat him, but that's a good game.
Hey, it's one of my favorites, man.
I felt like it's got some theme issues. Like we were talking before we started,
Yeah.
how I beat my brother. I had space flight, oh, and the internet, and rockets and tanks. Yet all I had was bronze in my
Yeah.
in my place, you know.
You
And
do
so
get these
so
weird thematic
yeah,
disconnects, right? Where you have like archers and an air force.
yeah. Well, you know, well, what my archers are shooting meteorites. I don't know what I'm shooting. Like it's bizarre, so bizarre, and there's so much to think about in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much, and it's interesting. What I really like the most is like my brother was crushing me with his military. He
Yeah.
just kept attacking me, but I obliterated him in the game because he was so focused on military, and I was building theaters, you know,
Yeah.
like crazy. And I made Shakespeare my leader, and he made Genghis Khan his leader or something, you know.
So I'm assuming your culture was blowing up
Oh, it was
at the
huge,
same
you know.
time he was beating on you to get resources and stuff like that.
Yep. And even when he took some culture, blew myself up, you know, like, whatever. I was getting 35, 40 culture a turn.
Yeah.
He was getting
Yeah.
two,
So
you
one of
know.
the things that really drew me to it when it first came out was it was a civilization game, which again, this was around the time of Tempest as well, right? And Advanced Civ was the holy grail. It's like nobody ever going to achieve that again. And Through the Ages came out, not the version you played. This was an earlier version because what you think I played on the app, I believe, is Through the Ages, a new story of civilization, which is sort of the refined version. Although many of the mechanisms are very reminiscent of the other mechanisms, and a lot of them are actually the same thing. They tweaked a few things here and there. But the beauty of this was there was no map. The idea of a civilization game with no map was
Mm,
alien to the gaming community at the time. It's like, how can you
yeah.
not have a map?
Oh,
And
that's
Nations is
interesting.
another one that doesn't have a map. But if you've played Nations, Nations is sort of a derivative of Through the Ages a bit too. It's definitely not. It's not the event now that it was then. But at the time, no map. That's crazy. And the fact that there's so many cards and so many different paths you can take your civilization down. I'm drawn to the path where you go, heavy science, and you let your science generate. It generates military strength for you and generates culture for you. But you can't go all in on one thing, as you said your brother saw, right? If you go all in on military, you're just not generating enough culture to score you the in-game points. If you go all culture with no military, then you're at risk, right? And I think the number of players as that goes up, you're at more of risk because you have more players that can sort of do offensive things to you. If there's a criticism of the game, I think it's that you sort of have to stay within striking distance of the leader military wise if you have a lot of players in the game. Because if you are the weakest militarily, you can get beat up on a lot. There's some variants you can use to stop that. But yeah, there's
And
just
then those the event cards can some of those can really if you're the weak military in a big game. Yeah.
and it's got all the cool stuff in the game. It's got happiness, it's got the production when you talk about your food and your bronze or your ore, that stuff. It's got science that you can generate. It's got religion. It's got culture, and you are juggling all these things simultaneously with the cards that are coming out on the board. Further, the actions are broken up into civilization actions and military actions, and it's very cool that you can change your form of government to give you more military actions and less civil actions, or more civil actions and less military actions.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite parts too. I didn't even think about that. And also the way that you can change your government. Like you can do it. You can. It's a science. Is it science that lets you? Yeah, you
It's
build. But
science, yeah.
yeah, get enough
Costs you a
science,
lot
and
of science to do it.
yeah, a lot of science you can just go peacefully and keep on rolling, or you can be like, you know what, screw this, burn it down, and you just
Revolution time.
yep, lose a turn and go. That is that's really cool. Is it take up a ton of space and take a very long time to set up? It
It
feels
does
like it
not
might.
actually, because it's all card driven, right? So you lay the boards out, you put a few markers on a few things, shuffle up a couple decks of cards, and in fact, since you go through multiple eras, you only have to shuffle era one card decks, lay them out, and then as you're playing the game, when you have a little bit of downtime, you can shuffle the era two cards. So you can sort of prepare for later games during the you know the quiet moments early game. So it doesn't take
Gotcha.
that long to set up. It does take quite a bit of time to play, especially in a real world setting. The app speeds it up a bit because it does a lot of the bookkeeping for you. But generally, at the end of every turn, you're generating some amount of science, some amount of culture, and you got to be careful with those tracks when you're doing that. It adds a little bit of time to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my only real criticism I have of it is this is a very 2020 criticism to have. Um, I wish there was more non-Euro leaders in the game. I mean, there's a few,
Hmm.
there's a few, but like if we can have Sid Meier in the game, let's get Martin Luther King in the game.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
and says let's get Sun Tzu in the game, or that's my only criticism. But it's an older game, so I can see why. I wonder if there weren't to be fourth edition or whatever, if some of that stuff would come in. So that and the weird I'm shooting bronze rockets at you. Those are really my only two criticisms of it. I mean, it's fun. I don't know that I would want to play in person a 5-person game.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
that's once you get to the high player count, the weight of the game time wise sort of outstrips it. I'll never forget. It's one of my favorite games. And somebody said, "Hey, this was a particularly slow player." This was years ago in our game group. Says,
yeah, was it Tony? Because I hear he's the
"No,
slowest.
no, no. This is before I even met those guys." He said, "We're going to play Through the Ages." This was like 9 o'clock at night. So this was not the game day started like 6 and we went to like midnight. At 9 o'clock, he's like, "We're gonna play Through the Ages. Do you like this game?" I said, "Oh, it's one of my favorites." He says, "Do you want to play?" I said, "Nope." And I said that because I knew there was no way they were going to finish this game that night, and they didn't even make it to the first age, right?
Oh,
Because we were watching them play, and it went about like I thought it would.
yeah. It's funny. A local convention. Me and my buddy were leaving. We were leaving. A convention. We were leaving at midnight, 1 a.m. And I s you not, there was 6 dudes setting up Twilight
Oof,
Imperium.
oof.
And I forgot to check the next morning if they were still sitting there. I forgot because but that I left. I was like that. Those people are making horrible life choices.
Exactly.
It's just
That's why I stayed away from that one game Through the Ages. I'm like, sounds like a good idea, but I'm pretty sure in practical application, it's not going to be great.
all right. So last one I got on the list. This is probably my favorite published Euro out there. I'm gonna make that because Merchants Cove is
Mhm.
gonna knock it right off the list.
It's good to hear.
But Euphoria is currently probably my favorite Euro game with the expansion. You got to have the expansion,
Oh, okay.
the Ignorance is Bliss expansion. Otherwise, it's not nearly as good. It's just for me. Well, the production's great. All Stonemaier productions are great.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but the way the AI has been written into it, and so the way my wife and I do it is we just co-op it. You know, as long as we both win before the AI. See earlier conversation about not messing up my wife's plan because I want
Hmm.
to stay in the home. But she likes that one. She enjoys it. The theme is pretty decently realized if you take the time to like read the cards.
Hmm. And
You can make
funny.
it.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of humor in it.
yeah, you can make it all mechanics if you want, but if you stop and you pay attention and you pay to what's going on here? How did I get another worker? Oh, I shocked somebody until they came
Right.
and worked for me. Oh, I sprayed this person down with a fire hose until they agreed to come work for me. Great, funny stuff, clean worker placement, but the dice rolling is just enough of that randomness. So anyhow, it was a huge shocker for me when I played. I was like, wow, that's good. I want to play that again. like right now, I kind of want to go get my wife to play it with me,
Yeah.
like right now, and just leave you to finish this. You know.
And
Um,
the game plays much quicker than you would think, right? It plays relatively quick. I like all those aspects as well. I've come to really appreciate the underlying humor. You talk about these markets you flip over. One of my favorites that may or may not be in your game, but if you flip it over, see, it's these different locations. And this one is the cafeteria of nameless meat. And I just love that name.
well, you're from the South. You've eaten that nameless meat.
That's right. Exactly.
Just fry
There's
it,
no question.
bread it, and
That's
fry
right.
it. It's fine.
We think it's
Yeah,
spam. We're not sure.
yeah, might be possum. Yeah, that's yeah, it's one of the I just keep coming back to because it doesn't do a lot that is novel that I had never done before. I mean, the dice rolling, how your workers can get too smart, and then they're like, oh, I'm not working for you.
Right. This
You know,
random element that come in can take a worker away from you. Yeah.
yeah, and so you got to manage the things with it. That's kind of interesting. I haven't played one that does that before, but nothing about it's novel. But everything that it does, it works. And so that one for me, that's probably currently my favorite Euro that I got. And again, with that expansion, because the AI is just flawless in it. It's
Really,
just
I've never played with the AI in that game. I'll have to check this out.
it's lightning fast. It adds 2 bots, but you flip over 2 cards and you're like, oh, this goes here, done.
That's perfect.
But
Finding a good AI that plays quickly like that, that's really golden, especially now as, well, in COVID times, first of all, but as more solo gaming is coming on the scene, it's almost necessary to get a decent solo mode in games.
yeah,
And so the
especially in
fact that it's
Euro
a team, that's
games.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially and I've mentioned him like 3 times now because he doesn't mention himself. Drake Villarreal, who did the AI for Merchant's Cove, he's doing, and this is not hyperbole because I've met the dude, some of the best solo AIs out there. I will pick him over David Turtzi. I will pick him over Automata Factory any day of the week because what he's doing is it's quick and easy, but you're playing against a bot that's actually doing stuff, and it seems like they're making real choices. You feel
Right.
like you're playing against an opponent. It's not one of the, oh, you score between 400 and 420 to 22. You are a god.
That's such a cheat. That's such a cheat, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to be playing against something, not playing to a certain point threshold. So I'm very much with you there. I think that's a huge cheat.
Yeah, he did the solo for Endless Winter, which I'm so sorry to your wallet. Like you're gonna
I
be you're
know.
gonna be on that.
I've written it down right here.
You're gonna be on that so quick. It's just if you don't love it, then your podcast is a liar.
Oh,
Like that.
throwing
That's
down
how.
the gauntlet.
Yeah, that's how confident I am on that. I can't speak to anybody else on the podcast, but this one you're gonna be all about. But we got to start wrapping up at some point. But I'm just gonna toss this out. If Jamie can get a copy, because maybe he can't, when things are back together, this game right here, when I haven't gotten to review it because COVID hit,
Yeah.
is one that you have to film yourselves playing.
Okay.
It's called Coco Banana. I'm going to show you the back of this.
I heard you talk about this before. Actually.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Yeah. Yeah. That seems like the kind of craziness that our crew would like, to be honest.
And it has, yeah, that's right. Because I think me and Mark Dainty talked about it.
Yeah.
Because, it's just this bizarre, and, I don't actually know how to play because the first set of rules I got were in Korean, and then they sent me a PDF, but like we kind of worked it out. And I'm like, I think we know we're going to try it. But as near as I can tell, it has a coconut hat and a stuffed banana. And you're playing cards, and at some point something happens and you're racing to grab the hat or the banana. And so if I grab the banana first, you got to get the hat and put it on your head before I can hit you on the head with the banana. And I want to see all 5 of you guys, or 6 of you, however many you can get in the room, playing that, because it's either the most brilliant game ever made or the worst.
And it could be both.
Yeah, well, it's funny. This company, Mandu Games, that's what they do. I got this other one called Kushi Express, which is about making meat skewers. And it's a dexterity game. And some buddies of mine were over, and we're like, all right, let's try this. And my buddy reads the rules, and he looks at me, he's like, this is brilliant or horrible. And I don't know.
Yeah.
But we knew it was good because when we finished, like it's a surprise ending, like sometime in the last 6 cards or whatever, the game ends. Mm-hmm. And it finished, and all of us went, oh,
that was over.
Yeah. So, but Coco Banana, get Jamie
we'll have
on
to check
it.
that out. Have you played? So your description of it did remind me, though. Have you played Happy Salmon?
No, I haven't. I need to.
check out Happy Salmon. And if you dig enough, you might be able to find a video of some of the Cabal guys, myself included, playing Happy Salmon at Jamie's house one day. And it's there were these guys playing a Euro game, and they couldn't concentrate because we're playing Happy Salmon, and they pan from the game over here, and we're just acting crazy. That's the game Happy Salmon, and pointing back. They're trying to play this dry Euro game, and we're over there slapping hands and high fiving and twirling. It was great.
Well, see that's the thing when conventions happen again. You can get your Happy Salmon. I'll get my Coco Banana, and we'll just get 2 tables on either side of the the historic war game, and just
That's right.
just
Make
go
those
to town.
faces at each other.
Yeah, but we can do it over them, and
be
then
great.
whoever gets beat up first, they lost.
You have to find me at the next Origins that actually occurs, right? Because that's one of my favorite conventions.
It was great. I was just going to go back to that one because it was so much fun. Because Gen Con, I've always heard it's more packed and big and everything.
Yeah.
But I can't pretend to be a gamer if I haven't gone to Gen Con.
This is true.
Got to do it. But we went way over time. I really, really appreciate you spending the time to hang out. I'm just going to leave it with this. This is your chance to steal Tony's bit.
Oh.
Your words of wisdom for everybody.
Oh, you just can't tell Tony that I offered words of wisdom, okay? Because I think he's copyrighted that. I'll get kicked off the podcast.
We'll just folksy it up, We'll
Okay.
just find some, folksy way to say it, but we'll all know.
Okay, so we'll call it words of redneck wisdom. That's what we'll call it, right? So,
Yeah, right.
yeah. So I knew that the other guests that you'd had asked them about word of wisdom. I did a little bit of thinking, but I didn't script anything, right? But I did think this is an interesting time that we're in because COVID is unlike anything we've had to deal with as a nation, right? And it's at a time when we have to deny ourselves a bit of that thing that is very integral to being a human, right? And that's the social aspects of things. There are a lot of people, we've seen unfortunately, mental health cases and suicide rates and stuff like that rise. So anything any of the listeners can do, any of the viewers can do to reach out to someone, tell them you're thinking about them, give them a smile for the day, and hopefully you get a smile in return. That goes a long way in a human sense, right? We've had a chat now for about an hour and a half, Will, and I love chatting with people. So take advantage of the technology you have on hand to communicate with people and just be human, because a lot of people out there, even if you don't know, may need that interaction, and you could be the difference in someone's day and in someone's life just by reaching out and saying, hey, thinking about you, want to talk to you, having a good time being around you, even if it's remote like this. So that would be my words of wisdom to your viewers. Go be the smile in someone's day.
Oh, that was you spent a lot of time on that. Go be the smiles in someone's day, didn't you?
I came up with that on the fly, man. Don't tell Tony Topper. Don't tell Tony Topper.
If I could do it and I had the technical savvy, I would totally get the do little thing going over. You said that?
The caption comes over.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just gonna cut that little bit because I'm in San Jose, California. Tony's somewhere down the street. I'll just go I'll just slide that under his door and leave it. And it says to Tony, love Don, screw you.
That's right. That's how I hope he interpret.
Right. But anyhow, thank you so much for taking the time. I enjoyed myself. Everyone who's listening or watching, if you're just watching, you'll find a link down in the description to just the podcast version. There's also going to be a link to the Secret Cabal, as well as, if I can dig it up, the Bag of Penis episode. I will have a link to that as well. Don't listen to it with speakers in a public place, is all I'll say about that. And Don, thank you so very much for joining us. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks for inviting me, Will. Have a good one, everybody.
What do you actually do? They keep saying you're a mathematician.
I am a mathematician. This is one of the things I was going to talk to you about. So I can't really talk about exactly what I do. I can talk about it in generic terms.
Oh, would you have to kill me? Would you have to go all Ghost Dad and come through the computer?
Something along those lines, yeah. I don't know. I've been married almost 30 years, Will. So.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. You don't look like a rock anymore.
Yeah, I'm George Costanza at best, man.
Oh, George has got too much hair.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if he'd shave himself, a freshly shorn George Costanza, that's more my speed.
Ooh, that's like the nightmare gift. I got you a freshly shorn George Costanza.
That's right.